to this company. There we go. All right. Heidi, it's so cool to be with you today. You are in New York, right?
I am. I live in Chelsea in New York in Manhattan.
Okay, very cool. And but you're a fellow Virginian like me.
Yes, yes. I grew up in Alexandria and I went to University of Virginia for both undergrad and law school. And then I worked there for 6 years and then moved to New York in the year 2000. So I've been in New York, wow, 25 years almost. And I lived in Virginia for 30. So there you go. I'm
Okay.
55.
Wow, I was really happy you reached out and talking about this band and this man that you love, and I want to get into it. So we're talking today about Surrender, which is
Have the book.
Bono's. I know I've got mine. It's my library copy.
It's such an awesome picture of him too.
It
And I can
is.
relate because I have freckles under my eye and so does he. And so I always am like, okay, we're freckle buddies.
Yeah, I mean I mean he looks great here. You look great. So I think it works.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Channeling my inner Bono, which I do often. I aspire to be like him.
Oh, okay. Let's jump right into that because I love Bono, but like you love Bono. So when did this start?
Yeah, it came actually a little bit later in my life. I was born in 1970. The band formed in 1976, but I didn't know about them till I was in high school. Like I grew up in the MTV era. So if all the cool girls in my high school, which I was categorically not, I was a giant nerd, they would all walk around with REM t-shirts and U2 concert t-shirts. And my first show when I was a teenager. I was 14. I went to the Aha concert, the band that wrote Take On Me. But I liked U2, but I only really knew about them through MTV. And then I went to college, as I mentioned, in Virginia, and REM was a big rock band during my college era. Although U2 music was present, when it really came into my life soundtrack in full blast, I went through a really traumatic relationship split. I was with the same person from the age of 18 to 30. And I mentioned I moved to New York when I turned 30, when that was all erupting or disrupting. And I was going through a really difficult time. And that's when I started playing U2 music in the background. I was playing just music that would try to help me reclaim my life. But then I got into another relationship. That was 8 years. And when that one fell apart, I just constantly was listening to U2 music. It got me through every layer of that second really traumatic relationship split. And then, but I had never been to see U2 live in concert. So this was like 2009, and a work colleague, I was actually teaching out in California, and a work colleague, I was joking with him that Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again was my theme song for my romantic life.
Oh, I love Brittany too. So I'm
I do
like,
too. So I cracked this joke to him, and he said, "Who's your favorite band right now?" And I said, "U2. It's all basically all I'm listening to." And he said, "How many times have you seen them live?" And I said, "Never, actually." And he's, "Oh wait, no, I'm fixing that." He took me to the show at the Rose Bowl on the 360 tour, and I felt like I'd been hit by lightning. And after that, I've now, since then, that was 2009, I've seen the band like 50 times
really?
in many cities in the United States and also in foreign countries, which I can talk about. And it really, I've become so respectful of the band, who the four guys are as human beings, how they guide their relationships, their philanthropic pursuits, their creativity. And it really, the band and the music really has infused every aspect of my professional life too. I'm a law professor, so I teach these serious legal concepts, but I am constantly infusing U2 lyrics or examples or themes into my classes. But my students now are like, wait, is that the band that Bon Jovi is in? So they confuse it with Bono, but I set them straight. I set the
Yeah.
record straight.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that is so cool. I have to tell you, I have seen you two live, and but like my cousins are very into them. So I saw them in 2000 for the Elevation tour,
Amazing.
in
That's great.
Atlanta. Yeah, and I'm not a live music person, so the fact that I have seen them is like actually very impressive for me.
I love that. I love that.
Okay, I love that. Talking about the book. So, Surrender, the subtitle is 40 Songs, One Story, and it's by Bono. So let's talk about like your favorite stories from it. Who is Bono? What should people know about this book?
Okay, can I first talk about how I came to want to read it? So
Yeah.
it was his book was coming out November 1st of 2022. And the last time I'd seen U2 was the last tour they did before the pandemic hit was 2019. They did a 30th anniversary tour of the Joshua Tree album, the one
Mhm.
that came out when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And but they extended it 2 years later to do Australia, New Zealand, and then Asia. So I somehow orchestrated a work trip to Sydney, Australia, so I could tack on seeing U2 in Sydney, in the Sydney Cricket Ground. I went to 2 shows in Sydney. So that was like November, December of 2019. And then my U2 girlfriend and I, Michelle, she and I met in Dublin in 2015 at a show, and she and I we have these kind of complicated professional lives, but we meet up for U2 shows around the world. And we did a road trip to find U2's Joshua Tree in the desert in California. It's actually the tree is dead. It died in the year 2000 because it was knocked over by wind. But the original Joshua Tree from the album, you can find it. It's hard to find, but we did it. So 3 weeks later, like a month later, no, 3 weeks later, the pandemic hit and everything is shut down.
Yeah.
There were a lot of fan meetups online to rewatch shows, but we had no live music from U2 really since 2019. And then it was announced that Bono's book was coming out. And so it was announced for November 1st, 2022, the book was going to come out. But then they also announced a one-man show, a tour. He was going to do a book tour, but it was going to be him reading from his own book and playing music, but not with the band. He was going to have, I think his musician's name, one of them was Jack Knife Lee, he's just a great musician. And so he was going to play the piano. I think there was a harpist and a cellist. It was just beautiful. So as a real fan, you get pre-sale codes to to get tickets. So I got myself a ticket, one ticket to opening night at the Beacon Theater in New York when they were going to launch the book. I think it was November 2nd that the show was going to launch, and I was going to get a free copy of the book at the show. So that's how I got my copy of the book. I went to the show. It was epic. You know, the Beacon's a very small theater, so it was like you're in Bono's living room, and you could tell he was excited to be on stage again. It was full of real fans. It was just awesome. So I took the book home. It's 557 pages. Like it's a long book. And I was just, it's a master class in memoir writing. That's my favorite genre, which I can talk a little bit. It's the genre I write in.
Yeah.
It blew me away. So then I bought it. I bought a copy for my parents because I have kind of a fraught relationship with my family over religion, etc.
Mhm.
And Bono did too. So I used his book as this vehicle to talk to my parents about U2 music and religion and kind of a lot of stuff our family has gone through. And then I sent it to all my friends. And then since then, the band did a residency in Vegas. So I got to meet up with my friend Michelle, and we went to a whole bunch of shows for the Vegas residency. And they did 40 shows in Vegas, which echoes the number 40 that's in the book title, because 40 is
Yeah.
a really important number to the band.
Okay. So that's amazing. So that's the book that you have is the one that you got at that show.
Yes, and to prepare for this podcast, I was like, okay, when did I get my first copy of the book? Because I'd forgotten that I was handed one at the show, and I went back through my book ordering records, and I realized, oh, I bought my parents one in January of 23 for my dad's birthday, but the one that I have is still the one that was handed to me at the show. So I actually didn't want to write in it at all. But I ended up reading it a second time and underlining a lot of my favorite quotes and things like that because it really is just a master class in beautiful writing and in
Hmm.
memoir writing, which it's not a biography or an autobiography. This happened on that day. This happened on the other day. Bono is such a great storyteller and such a beautiful writer and a beautiful poet, and he layers in so many different aspects of his own life, like how he transitioned from his real name is Paul, how Paul became Bono, how Paul met his spouse, who he's been with literally as long as he's been with the band. The history of the troubles in Ireland, political conflict, religious conflict, how he became a father, how his emotions that he wrestled with about fatherhood and was he going to be a good father? Because he had a, like me, I have a difficult relationship with my family over certain things. Bono did too. The book is so well structured. It's again, it's 40 songs, so it's 40 different chapters. There's three different parts, but he divided it into 40 chapters. Each chapter is a song title. There's song lyrics at the beginning of each chapter. And then Bono is also a really great kind of sketch artist. He doodles a lot.
Yes.
A lot of fans have tattoos of Bono's doodles. And
Oh,
so each chapter has at the on the other page facing the title page of each chapter, there's one of Bono's doodles and then his cool handwriting describing something that happens in the chapter.
no.
So it's pretty cool.
Yes, it is. And it's like a wonderful memoir, like you said. And I definitely want to talk about that a little bit more. But the book itself, the memoir itself, what pulled you in? What are some of the stories that really made it, you were like, I can't stop?
Yeah, from page one, really, it pulls you in. So it starts. The other thing I like about his approach to memoir is that it doesn't start at the beginning and lead up to 2022. It starts with an inciting incident, which we all know good writing does that. And it was a scene in the hospital. I'm not spoiling anything by telling because this is literally on page one,
Okay.
but it's a scene in the hospital, which a lot of fans didn't know. I didn't know this, that he had heart surgery,
Yes.
major heart surgery in 2016. And it's this poignant scene in the hospital where he's coming out of that surgery and he can't find his breath. And he does, in the one man show, he does a really beautiful job of emphasizing the word air as a singer, as this guy who can get on the stage in a football stadium and sing and talk to 80,000 people. For the first time in his life, he couldn't find his air. And then he relates the word air to the word for God. And so just the first three pages, you are just blown away with his ability to demonstrate humility. Here's a scene where he was really as vulnerable as possible. In reality, his life was on the line. But you can tell the love that he has for obviously his wife, for the doctor. And he's funny in the way that he describes the doctor who had a Southern accent. The surgery was done in America. So, really, from page one, it you can tell it's Bono's voice. A lot of
Mhm.
people are like, "Oh, he probably had a ghostwriter." I'm sure he had a good editor and proofreader because, as a legal writing professor, I have not seen one single typo in this book, which is pretty miraculous for 557 pages. But he wrote this thing, and it is completely his voice. And really, from page one, I was riveted.
Yeah. What are some what are some things about Bono that like inspire you? He is such an inspiring person, period, for so many people, but for you personally and talking about the story, like what he talks about.
Yeah, and this comes through in the book too. He says this on stage a lot that he's thankful to Larry Mullen Jr., who's the drummer in the band, because Larry literally put up a sign at their little high school saying drummer seeks musician for band, and they were 15, 16. It was in 1976. I think they were 14, 15, and 16, the four guys. And from that moment forward, that was what they did with their lives. And so I'm so inspired as a person who's had many jobs, has had several long-term relationships. I so admire that he and the Edge, Adam Clayton and Larry Mullen, knew from that young age that they had something special and they were willing to put in the work of understanding each other's different personalities. There's evidence that they have always split everything financially four ways or five with their manager, Paul McGinnis, or I may have his title wrong, but they split everything five ways from day one so they wouldn't fight about things like that. And then also, two of them, Larry and Bono, are still with the woman that they were with in high school. And to me, in this day and age, especially for men who are in the limelight on the road for most of their careers, to maintain those really deep interpersonal relationships, I'm just so in awe of. Also, the way that Bono talks about his children, he has four children, his approach to fatherhood, really creating these independent thinkers, but exuding love. I also love the way that Bono is just so thankful. He has every excuse to just be like, I'm a rock star, I can do whatever I want, but he doesn't. He always thanks the fans for giving them a great life, is his phrase, and he gives to society so much. I know a lot of people roll their eyes about his politics and things like that, but he really cares.
Mhm.
I feel it's like this genuine care for people who are
Yeah.
disadvantaged, whether it's in a foreign country and he doesn't even know these people. He really wants to use his fame for good, and he also loves it. He's just, you can tell how happy he is being on stage with his brothers, not by birth, obviously, but by friendship. For I think this is their 49th anniversary is this coming next weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So
That's
they've been together a long time.
I know. Are there any bands that have been together as long as you two?
I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, there's like the Rolling Stones and
Crazy.
Bruce Springsteen's band and things like that, but I'm not sure if all the original members are still in those I no, obviously not, because I know the drummer of the Rolling Stones passed away. So for you two to be doing this for this many years together and still being together and creating music is just, I think, really phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you were saying too, the fact that he's still with his wife Allie, and I know he talks about their relationship quite a bit in the book and how important that is. It is inspiring because, like you said, it's not doesn't happen that much.
Yes, and how a lot of the song lyrics, there's a funny scene in the book where, and again, this isn't spoiling anything, but he forgot her birthday. And
Uh-oh.
and so he wrote the song The Sweetest Thing to her.
Oh.
And then she said, she's so funny. Like, she's amazing in her own right. Like, she's an incredibly strong woman, and I admire her a lot as well. So she said to Bono, since the song was written for me, I get to do whatever I want with the proceeds of it. And so he said, I have to ask the band. And she's like, wait, this was a gift to me. And she's kidding. But she ended up donate every penny from that song is donated to Chernobyl International, like the relief fund for
Mhm.
victims of the Chernobyl accident, because that's been
Yeah.
one of her philanthropic passion projects over the years. So there's just scenes like that about their relationship are really come through in the book. And it's very genuine and inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I definitely want to talk about more, but I wanted to bring up a little bit about like his relationship with his parents because I think that has a huge impact on everything else. What do we know about that?
Okay, definitely. So his dad's name was Bob and his mom's name's Iris. And Iris passed away when Bono was 14. So really 1 to 2 years before the band formed. And his mom, I believe his mother was Protestant and his father was Catholic. And his father also was like an opera aficionado, so had a penchant for music in his own right. But when Iris passed away, it left a huge hole in the household. And Bono describes that so, again, just so poignantly. It was like three men living under the same roof, but full of anger. And at the same time that Ireland was going through the troubles, the Protestant and Catholic conflict, and there's a lot of terrorist activity,
Right.
etc. But the way Bono describes his mother, Iris, and there's a beautiful song called Iris. There's a lyric from it. Iris standing in the hall, she tells me I can do it all. And he tells on stage about how she left me, my mom left me, she died, but she left me an artist. And I
Mm.
always feel like if I meet Bono, I've met Larry, and I've come close to meeting Bono. I'm an introvert, and there's a lot of extroverted fans who who can elbow you right out of the way.
Yeah.
But I would tell him I feel like he gave me permission to be an artist. Whereas
Oh.
my parents are good people, etc. But we've always had conflict over religion. And Bono showed me the way he talks about his mother saying, "You can do it all." And the same song has a lyric, "Don't fear the world, it isn't there." And so when I hear him say those words and talk about those moments in the hallway of Cedarwood Road, whereas that's another song where he grew up, I can just imagine this mom saying to this feisty little boy, you can do it. You have
Oh.
it in you. And so I'm so empowered by that. And then also his father, they had conflict. I think the father wasn't certain how this rock star life was going to play out. But there's really great scenes in the book that I don't want to spoil because it's really amazing to read them word by word and see how they evolve to how they were able to come closer together in Bono's father's later years when he realized that the impact that his son has made on the world with the band.
Yeah. I think you're making me want to talk about like your experiences, and I'm looking in your behind you and I'm seeing some of your books and memoirs and writing and everything, and I'm guessing this kind of inspires you and you're so let's talk about your writing and that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I was trained as a lawyer. I was a practicing lawyer for 15 years, and then I became a law professor. And as I mentioned, when I went to that first U2 show in 2009, I'd only been teaching a year, and that show just blew me away. And then I really dove into U2 lyrics and music, and then realized the music was making me a better teacher because to me, the band, even though they're giantly famous rock stars, they really are four humble guys, and they're very authentic. I find them to be very authentic in how they talk about creativity and music. And so I decided to start being that way in my own work. There's a lot of fake it till you make it in the legal profession, and I have a very robust blushing response. So when I get nervous, I
So do
can't fake it.
I.
Really? Okay.
So bad. So bad. And I don't know,
Well,
I'm
oh
Irish too, so
my gosh.
yeah.
You're even wearing Irish green
I
today.
and I'm drinking Jameson, talking about Bono. Yeah, no,
Oh
I'm
yeah. Oh
such a
yeah.
I'm terrible blusher. Sorry to go off script, but
No. So I call it an epic blusher. I'm an epic blusher. But I always used to feel like that was a weakness. But then when I started modeling or trying to tap into the energy that U2 and Bono do on the stage and just the way they carry themselves and treat people, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. I decided I was going to stop trying to pretend like I knew everything, and I was going to share with my students the things I didn't know. And then we were going to, so it brought me closer to my students. But then I started writing. To your question, I wanted to write about all the struggles that I went through as a young attorney with extreme public speaking anxiety and fear. And I'm a huge introvert, but I was in this really loud, extroverted profession. And so I started writing, and I just started writing very vulnerably about my relationship issues, those two really traumatic breakups I went through in my life. Again, one at 30 and one at 40, and how U2 music helped me get through those. But then also my situation with my family. I was raised in a very religious environment. My dad's an Episcopal minister. He's retired now, but he was a minister, and my mom was a minister's wife. So growing up, my brother and I were on this stage, but two quiet, totally mousy, scared little kids who were expected to be perfect. And we were totally not perfect. We were trying to figure out who we were. And then I looked back on my relationship problems as mistakes or huge failures. But when I started writing about these issues, I was healing through writing about the issues. So I wrote a book called The Introverted Lawyer, and that's the first time I started dabbling in telling my own life story. And I was a little scared, but then the book went out, and suddenly I was thrust onto this public speaking stage, which was ironic for an introverted girl with a blushing problem and public speaking anxiety. So then I wrote a book about fear, and then I went a little further with telling my story, and it was fine. No one yelled at me. I wrote a third book in the well-being space, the lawyer well-being space, called The Flourishing Lawyer. But while that book was, I had a publisher for that book, those three books, the American Bar Association. And while the last one, the Flourishing one, was with the publisher, the pandemic had hit and I couldn't
um,
travel. And so I started writing about my travels, and I started writing about the relationship. It became a travel memoir. I started writing about my relationship with my parents, but also my romantic relationships, what went wrong in those situations. But all that was through the lens of travel. And one of the chapters that I wrote about was a trip to Ireland in 2015. My first time I went to Ireland, it was pre 2016 election. I was pretty stressed. with family dynamics, etc. And I bought a ticket to Dublin for Thanksgiving instead of going home. And I bought a ticket to a U2 show and I was going to go by myself. And that weekend opened up this world to a U2 fan family. That's when I met my friend Michelle.
Yeah.
I met fans from all over the world, and I realized, oh, I can have this chosen family through the lens of U2. So I finished that book and it came out this past June and it's called The Map I Draw and the subtitle is A Memoir of Travel as a Passport to Self.
Mm.
And so it's 10 chapters. It actually begins and ends in Rome and it covers a span of 12 years of my life and it's 10 total trips, the beginning and ending in Rome, those were two different trips, and then 8 other trips in between. And in each chapter, I do something scary and I don't die. And I hear Bono's words in my head, like, don't fear the world, it isn't there. Or maybe that's Iris's words to him.
Mm.
And it's true. I did a lot of scary things in my life that are all in that book. And through each one, I heal each layer of this trauma that I went through as a kid, as an adult,
Yeah.
etc.
What was the scariest thing you did?
Oh my gosh, I did so many scary things. That's a great question. What's the scariest? I think physically scariest, I went snorkeling in the Great Barrier Reef. This was
Okay.
on one of 2 Australia trips that's in chapter 6, and I saw a shark. And that
Oh,
was pretty scary. That was
yeah.
pretty physically scary. That was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And like I climbed a precarious mountain in Peru. Oh, I did a sweat lodge ceremony with 10 other people in like a hut in Mexico and I couldn't breathe. So again, coming full circle back to Bono's relationship with air at the beginning of his book, I had one of those moments in it's called a temazcal. It's a sweat lodge in Mexico. But then I realized I can breathe. So each chapter I do something that pushes me to understand I am stronger than I think, which is
Yeah.
exciting. Yeah.
And I can relate to you about the snorkeling thing because I don't know if people have gone that moment in snorkeling where like you can see the ground, you can see like maybe 10 feet under you, and then all of a sudden it drops and you can't see the bottom. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm done. I'm done.
Yes, it's very
It
disorienting for sure.
is. If you
I
have
don't
like,
need to ever do that again.
yeah, if you have any kind of fear of heights, it's the same thing because all of a
Yes.
sudden the bottom is gone. So, well, very cool. Do you talk about your love of you too in that book?
I do. It permeates the whole book, but chapter 5 is the Dublin trip.
Okay.
And actually, 3 chapters in a row deal with you or immerse in you too, because chapter 5, I go to Dublin, I go to the show, I meet these amazing people. But it's not just about, oh, I went to a rock concert. It's really about self-exploration. There's a funny story in my book that relates to the surrender title. So in Dublin, there used to be a really cute leather goods shop called Thunder Solace. It's closed. I'm so sad. I just went to Dublin to see Oasis, and Michelle and I discovered that Thunder Solace is closed. But we used to go and get bracelets made and have U2 lyrics translated into Gaelic because the accents on the Gaelic
Mhm.
are so cool looking. But we were dying laughing one time because we were trying all our messages we wanted to be very uplifting. But she wanted, I think, surrender on her bracelet. But when you translate surrender into Gaelic and then you translate it back into English, it retranslates to give up. We were like, no, that's not the Zen Bono U2 message. We don't want to give up. We want to
Bon
surrender.
Bono. It's like a
Right,
nihilist inspirational quote. Give up.
right.
Don't
No, we're
just,
not
it's
giving
over.
up. Yeah, to answer your question, chapter 5 is Dublin, the show. Chapter 6, I go to Australia twice, but the second time I go to purposely, I went to a really rebellious teaching conference called Teaching as a Subversive Activity,
Okay.
meaning to stir students to be really excited about learning. But I timed it because there were 2 shows in Sydney that weekend, and I met up. Michelle couldn't go, but I met up with some friends that I met through different concerts. And then the chapter 7 in the book is Michelle's and my pilgrimage to find the Joshua tree in the middle of the California desert, which we did.
Hmm.
And then the pandemic hit right at the end of that chapter. And then the rest
Okay.
of the book is how I traveled after the pandemic.
Yes. I have another question for you, but just real quick, is there still a Joshua Tree like 80s bar in New York?
I think there is. I think there is.
Okay.
I have not been there. I may have been there a long time ago, but I haven't been there in ages.
I
But that kind of thing I love. And in the Dublin chapter, you just reminded me, there were tribute bands at this one bar in Dublin called The Church. And they had converted the basement of the church into like what you're describing. They had all these concert posters and music MTV videos
hmm
and drinks named after the band. And so stuff like I should see if the Joshua Tree still exists in New York.
I'm gonna look it up. I may have had a few good nights there a long
As
time
you
ago.
should.
As I,
As you should.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, it was making me think of that. I did want to ask, like, talking about your experience with, I think it's so important, not just reading, but also writing as a form of dealing with, of healing trauma and advice that you might have for others on what that experience is like. I think is great.
Yeah, that's such a great question or prompt. The writing has really saved my life or shaped my life and my ability to. I feel like now I have a much better relationship with my family, and I had to write the book to get there. And especially also my relationship with men or like romantic partners. I carried so much shame in my life being raised in this environment that I was raised in. And I really had to write about these really traumatic incidents in my life, which was hard and embarrassing and it's vulnerable and it's unpretty. My writing is not about sunshine and rainbows at all. There's a lot of fun in it as well, but I had to sit down and do it. And I thought I was behind when I was writing this book. Like my law books, I was always able to write in about a year, like from start to finish. This book, the memoir, took me 5 years to write. And I thought, oh, this is, again, like I'm somehow failing. When you're writing that type of intensity, that in content, it needs time for you to get it down on paper, which is not readable really. Time to reflect on it, edit it, see what metaphors come out of it, really wrestle with each word. I also went to do that writing. I went back through, I'm a big journaler. So I went back through all my journals from those times and photos and really tried to make it as accurate as possible, which also is hard, right?
Yeah.
You want to sugarcoat some of it or put a nice gloss on it and you can't. So I would say to anybody, I was going to say anybody who's interested in writing memoir, I do think that Bono's book is such a great example of, I keep calling it a master class because it is exactly how we should write about memory because it's so subjective, but it's so creative too. And people that want to write about painful subjects to heal, the memoir genre does that for us. And it's what I advise is write about who you are now. So you ask the question, who were you when you read this book? Write about who you are now, but then flash back to where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And I like the jumping around in time in memoir writing because it does help you heal through the tougher parts to realize, oh, wait, no, I did recover from that. Or I am a little stronger than I was in that particular scene. I remember what that little girl felt like. And wow, I want to go back and give her a hug, but wow, look how strong she is. And so I think the genre is so healing. It's very hard, but it's so worth it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And like, so you would definitely say like an autobio. I was saying audiobook. You feel memoir is separate from like an autobiography.
I do. I feel like autobiographies, a lot of famous people write autobiographies, but I consider Bono's not that. His is a memoir because it's so much more reflective. I'm not an expert on autobiographies, but to me, that genre is more like on this date that happened, and on this date this happened.
Mhm.
It's more like a chronological, not always, but it's much more about like phases of life, etc. But memoir reads like a novel even though it's true, it reads like a novel because you have to be, or the good ones are poetic. They are reflective. You have inner dialogue. You have a ton of layers of, like I said, like religion, history. For me, since I'm a travel memoirist, the location is a character in my book. But you can't
Mhm.
also say, oh, I ate a great spaghetti and I had a lovely Sangiovese. That's boring. So you have to write about what did the Sangiovese taste like? And I found this great quote from a wine aficionado that I put in my book, and she said that this wine that I had in Rome, it's called Cesanese, is like the ichor of a wild boar. And I had to look up what ichor, I-C-H-O-R. I didn't know what that word meant, but
What
that's such
is,
an awesome phrase, right?
yes. What is an ichor?
It's like what it really means is like the blood in the veins of the gods. It's like this
Mm,
really dramatic word to describe like blood, but rich, like in a good way, not in a death and destruction kind of way. Like
okay.
a powerful, empowering, like life force kind of
Life.
way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of drinks, I wanted to, so we talked about we were going to have like an Irish whiskey. And so like I'm having Jameson, but you have the perfect thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So as I was thinking, what do I want to, I was thinking we would do Jameson, but then I remembered on that chapter 5 in the map I draw trip to Dublin, I had some leftover euro to spend when I was flying out of Dublin, and I walked to the airport and I discovered this type of Irish whiskey called Writer's Tears, like the tears of writers, which is so perfect about what we're talking about. Because not that we writers have to constantly be weeping into our laptops or our pen and paper, but we put our life and soul into every word, and it feels like the teardrops falling onto the page. And it's actually really good whiskey. So I highly recommend the Writer's Tears brand
Yes.
whiskey.
Okay, excellent. We heard it here first, folks. Irish tears, Irish, the writer's tears, and the Irish.
Irish Writer's Tears, yes.
Rough
Like
go
Bono.
for sure. Bono for sure. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for bringing that. I love it. I wanted to go back a little bit more into surrender before we wrap it up.
Yes.
Like you already mentioned, you love memoirs. Do you read a lot of memoirs?
I do. I do
Mhm.
read, I've read a lot of travel memoirs, but I also have read a lot of memoir itself, not so much tied to travel as well. Ever since 9/11, this is the weirdest thing, but I've had trouble reading fiction. I try to read fiction, and all the books that everyone raves about, I'll get them. And then I don't know why, but I crave real stories by real people.
Mhm.
And usually in the memoir genre, I don't want to read them by famous people. Bono's an exception for me on that.
Yeah.
I obviously I wanted to read his memoir, but I don't read a lot of celebrity memoirs. I
Yeah.
find that I sometimes feel insecure, I guess, when I read them, or I don't know. So I'd much rather read really empowering stories by real, not that celebrities aren't real people, but like people like us who maybe
Yeah.
aren't famous, but have gone through something totally difficult and scary
Mhm.
and have figured it out, maybe
Yeah.
without all the resources that a famous person.
Might have.
Yes.
Not a memoir, but speak on the same thing. I think Gwyneth Paltrow's new autobiography or biography is coming on.
Saw that in the bookstore. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to ask top five favorite U2 songs.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have so many. It's hard. So I love the song Bad. I actually have a tattoo of 11 words from Bad, but it's translated into Italian, so no one can know what it says.
Okay.
So Bad is an amazing song. Some of these are going to sound a little cliche, but I love Streets Have No Name. I love With or Without You.
Mm,
I love One, but on the more recent stage, I like Song for Someone. I think I've already given you five, but Song for Someone and Every Breaking Wave are my two kind of most recent ones.
okay.
Although, let me throw one more in there because before I came on today, I have a ritual before I do any public speaking because I get nervous, right? So I
Yeah.
always listen to U2's song Get Out of Your Own Way and then Kelly Clarkson's cover of Beautiful Day. So that's my both of those songs are my, okay, you can do this.
Yeah.
Don't fear the world, it isn't there. So I play Get Out of Your Own Way. And Kelly Clarkson's cover, which I don't like covers of U2 songs. I'm a purist. But her cover of Beautiful Day is so empowering and I love it.
Yeah. I have to tell you, my husband always jokes. It's like Kelly Clarkson takes a song and it's, oh, this is a great, like, wonderful song we all love, but I'm just gonna make it like 7 times better. So all of her covers are like,
Yep.
it's great.
Yep. Absolutely. It's so empowering. It's great.
Yes,
I love
yes.
it.
Is there anything that we have not hit on yet that you want to make sure we got to?
I just highly recommend people obviously reading this book. There's also an audio version which I haven't listened to. It's Bono's voice, and I think I would just cry the whole time. So my friend Michelle has listened to it many times, but I think just maybe for people who normally wouldn't pick up a book like this, but are YouTube fans or are creativity fans of the creative process, like I liken Bono's book to creative process books. Like Rick Rubin has a great book out right now about the creative process.
Mhm.
Twyla Tharp has one, and Stephen Pressfield has amazing books about creativity. If you're a person who wants to write or wants to do any sort of creative pursuit but aren't sure where to get started, I think Bono's book is useful for that, even. And maybe even don't read it from page 1 to page 557. Go through the table of contents, pick out your favorite U2 song that's in the list of 40, and maybe read that chapter first and see if the book speaks to you in a different order from the normal starting at page 1. I think that could be a fun experiment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go do that after this. I think I'm so cliche, but I think my favorite U2 song is like one.
One is definitely on my list too. It's
Yeah. It's
absolutely
I just cry every single time I hear it. So
me too.
anyhow,
And in fact, a lyric from that song, Love the Higher Law,
yeah.
because since I'm in the law profession, I did a graduation speech at the University of Richmond in Virginia. I was the
Yay!
graduation speaker for University of Richmond School of Law a couple years ago, and I was having such a hard time writing the speech, and I was so stuck. And I don't have writer's block. Like I don't get stuck. And I was so nervous about doing that speech, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write the whole speech about that lyric, love the higher law. And what does that mean?
Hmm.
It's not love the higher law, and it is love the higher law, but is it love the higher law as a directive? Is it like love is the higher law? Is there a relationship between love and law that we haven't really interpreted yet? And
Yeah.
the lyric doesn't explain it. So I started the speech with that.
Very cool. I have to go look up this speech now. That's
It's
amazing.
online. It's online. I was so nervous and my blush was in full force, but Bono got me through it.
I bet Bono blushes. It's
He is amazing, whatever is happening to him. I've learned a lot from him too in terms of public speaking. Sorry, I could talk about him forever, but my friend Michelle taught me that Bono, to be more in his body on stage, the Edge, the guitarist, his wife is a choreographer, Morley Steinberg. And, and Bono worked with Morley as through choreography so he could be more in his body on stage and really understand how moving his body with intention can, I guess he likes to say, the songs sing him, not that he sings the songs, but the songs sing him.
wow.
And you can see that in his face. I haven't noticed whether he blushes or not, but his face is so emotive that it's just like pure joy. And he cries on stage too, for sure. It's awesome.
I'm gonna have to go out next tour. Are they still at the Sphere? No, they're not there anymore.
No, but you can go see the movie. It's so funny. There's a film of the show at the Sphere. I think it's still going, and
Okay.
it's actually worth seeing. I went to see the film, but hopefully they'll tour next year here
Okay.
soon.
Yes. Oh, excellent. Okay. So you did, all right. So we've done the last question, which is who would we recommend this book for? So that's excellent. I wanted to ask, where can we find you? What do you, sorry, I'll give you the chance to shine a spotlight on today.
Thank you. So I have a website, HeidiKristenBrown.com. It's Kristen with an IN, so HeidiKristenBrown.com. I'm most proud right now of my new travel memoir, The Map I Draw, a memoir of travel as a passport to self. I'm on Instagram at The Introverted Lawyer, and I have a new one called Heidiografia. It's complicated.
Okay.
And I also write about solo travel on Substack. And that one's just Heidiography with a Y at the end. But HeidiKristenBrown.com has it all there.
Okay.
I love people to read the map I draw, and if you're a YouTube fan, there's a lot of YouTube stuff in it.
Perfect. Excellent. Definitely hoping to get some readers for the map I draw and also for Surrender.
Yes.
But he's so handsome. You
He's
can't,
he's the most handsome.
he
He's so
is.
He's just, and he's so full of joy. It just
Yes.
makes me happy.
Yeah. I was, and yeah, it's such like a joyful, like youthful spirit about him for sure.
Yes. Yep.
Heidi, this has like sincerely been such a delight to chat with you today, and I'm just really appreciative of you bringing all this to the podcast. So, thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. You're such a great interviewer, and it's been exciting and fun to be a part of it.
Yay. All right. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. All
Oh,
right. That was perfect. And